Have you noticed how difficult it is to spend cash these days? I was in a coffee shop in London trying to buy a cup of coffee for some coins I had in my pocket, and then the third or fourth coffee shop I went to was the only one which would actually accept the coins. It's rather alarming that it's spreading quite widely that unless you've got a credit card, you can't buy even basic things. I'm someone who has some suspicious views on the move from simple cash to credit, and I think there's a worry which most of us are kind of missing on that front. I often have a simple rule, I think, which is when changes take place, and particularly when new laws are enacted, it's not a question of how good that law could be or how good that change could be. The question you really should ask is, how could that law be misused by a bad actor? Or how could that change be misused by a bad company or a bad government? When you think of it, if you remove ordinary cash from society and you only allow transactions which are via a credit card or a debit card or some kind of electronic system, then first of all you've moved from a situation which transactions were anonymous, private, to a place where everything that you buy, everything that you sell is trackable by the authorities who know absolutely every single thing that you buy or sell. And more than that, though, how could you use that kind of a system if you had a mind to? Some governments have had a mind to close people down from their bank accounts. I can think of the Canadian truckers over in Canada, where Trudeau decided that the most suitable punishment for them, as they were protesting his government and other issues, was that they should be denied access to their own bank account, that their money should therefore be not available to them anymore. If you live in a society where there is no cash, then even if people were to try to give you some money, they can't do so. You're completely cut off from absolutely everything. You can't pay your rent, you can't buy your food, you can't even buy a cup of coffee, because all of that would be completely gone for you. You can't even beg in the street and ask other people to help you, because they can't even give you any cash in that kind of society. Yes, perhaps the government think it's a good idea to remove beggars off the streets, but the price could be far too high. Think of what could be done in those circumstances for those who have a mind. If you have a purely digitable, trackable currency with every transaction only sanctioned by the bank that's given you your credit card, well, all kinds of things could be done if they wanted to. Supposing there's a lockdown of some kind again, there could be a financial lockdown very easily imposed. For example, you can't use your credit card or your money within 1 mile of your house. Could that be done? Sure, it could be done. You can make sure that transactions are now localized. Or maybe you don't want people to buy certain things. Maybe you don't want them to travel. Maybe you want to stop their traveling, in which case you can't use it on an aeroplane or a train or a bus, but it can be used to buy other things. Supposing you have a conviction for, drinking too much, drunk and disorderly. Well, the government could just switch off your credit just to enable you to stop buying any alcohol. You could buy anything else you like, but that particular thing would be out of bounds to you. Think of the control and the power that could be done here. Supposing the government decided that job seekers allowance, people who are out of work, they can only buy, let's call them essentials, necessities, and the government decides what the essentials and necessities are. Yes, you can buy bread and cheese, but Maybe you can't buy meat or eggs. Maybe they're too expensive. Think about the power which would be handed then to authorities if we lived in a society where we got rid of cash, where you no longer had the freedom to buy exactly what you want, undisturbed by anybody else, but that only transactions approved by the authorities could go ahead. We're not that far from that kind of a world, and I'm reminded of it every time I can't buy a cup of coffee with the coins in my pocket.